guys, and welcome back to Beauty Fortified. My name is Sue. If you're new here, welcome. I make hair care, skincare and makeup videos for the more mature woman. Today I wanted to do a trip down memory lane and do a look that's inspired by the 40s. Now, the 40s is an era that I absolutely love. I love the makeup of the time, I love the style, I love the music. It's also something that's quite close to my heart. When I did my makeup diploma, I did my paper on 40s makeup. So it's really a look and a style that I've really loved, and it has really stood the test of time. I think that it's probably the one and only era that you could take all the elements, put them together, and you wouldn't look out of place today. So if you'd like to see how I got this look, then keep on watching. The cosmetics that were around back during that period were, of course, Elizabeth Arden, Besame, Revlon and Max Factor. And the one foundation that was really a big thing and still has a cult following today is the Max Factor Panstick. So I'm going in with the Panstick in the color Cool Copper, and the ladies tended to wear a shade that was a tad darker than their skin tone, just to give the effect of a sun-kissed kind of tan. This is quite a thick foundation and it is quite dark for me, but this was developed for Hollywood starlets, and they then began to use it in their everyday makeup, and it had a cult following, and it still does have a cult following to this day. It has been discontinued in a few countries. It was available up until a few years ago. You can still get this formula in South Africa, but it's been replaced with a new formula which has the Panstick on one end and a primer on the other end. And when I was doing some research for this video, I actually went onto the Max Factor website, the international one, and I had a look at some of the comments there where people were talking about the fact that the original has been discontinued, and it really does have a major following. And there were women on there writing posts saying, you know, I've been using this since I was 16, I'm now 84, you've given me a product that's totally different. It's got a primer on one end. What does a primer do? Well, I don't use a primer. And yeah, it's quite it's actually quite heart-wrenching, you know, to see that it had such a huge following and now it's been discontinued in its original form. So that is one of the marketing fails, I think, of brands when they discontinue something that is, I mean, I understand evolution and change, and this formula is by no means, I'm sure, the original. I'm sure there's been a few additions over the years, but when you discontinue something that people have been using for years and years and years, yeah, it's kind of quite disappointing. So that's the foundation done. Now, they did contour, and they would generally use a foundation that was even a little bit darker than what they would use on their face. So I'm going to go in with my NYX contour stick and just using the dark side. This is in the shade Universal, and I'm just going to contour the cheeks and the nose. And then they would typically go in with some pressed powder. So I don't have a gorgeous 1940 inspired compact, so I'm using my Essence compact, and I'm just going to take a little bit of that over the face. So the look in the 40s was very matte. There was nothing glowy about it. So we're just going to powder that. And then I'm going to go onto the eyes. Now, the 40s look was very minimal when it came to eye makeup, and they typically used one shade of eyeshadow with no kind of contouring or defining of the crease. and it was normally a shade that was quite close to your skin tone. So I'm going to go in with a MAC one, and this is in the shade Teite Tint, and it's quite a skin-like looking eyeshadow. Taking a fluffy brush, and I'm just going to blend that out all over the lid. So the eyes were kept very clean and very neutral. And typically the shadow kind of went almost as high as the brows. No definition in the crease, and no eyeliner. Eyeliner only came into the fore quite a few years later. So the eyes are just kept very simple, clean and classic, just with a shade that was slightly deeper than your skin tone, or slightly more peachy. And then on the bottom lid, it generally wasn't defined. I'm going to cheat a little bit today, and I'm going to go in with my MAC shadow in the shade Kid. And this is a lovely shadow just for giving a shadow, literally a shadow on the lower eyelid. So it doesn't really give a color, but it just kind of gives you the illusion of a shadow. I'm going to leave the mascara for last, and then onto the cheeks. The cheeks were generally defined with a touch of blush, and a lot of the times women would use their lipstick just to create a flush of color on the cheeks, or a very light peachy rouge or blush. So I'm going to go in with the MAC Melba matte blush. This is a very light blush, and it was always just a hint of blush. I don't know what a hint of blush is. It's not something in my vocabulary. So I'm going to do my version, which is probably a little bit more than they would have used in the 40s. But this just gives a lovely hint of color. And then onto the brows. So the brows were quite full in the 40s, but they generally had an arch. So I'm going to be using my Benefit eyebrow pencil, and I'm going to just fill in the brows and create a little bit of an arch. So the 30s were thin brows and thin lips, and the 40s were fuller brows and fuller lips. And always beautifully defined. And now I'm going to put on some mascara. So typically they had little mascara palettes with a brush that you just used to brush onto your eyelashes. I'm going in with my L'Oreal Unlimited, and I really love this. It gives really full black lashes. And so no mascara on the lower lids, we're keeping them quite bare. And then finally onto the lips. Of course, the one thing that defined the 40s was the bright red lip, and women wore lipstick in wartime. It was very important to boost morale, and you could wear any color as long as it was red. So I'm going in with my Elizabeth Arden lip pencil, and the lips were rounded, so no pointed cupid's bows, but they were quite full and rounded. and they were slightly overdrawn just to emphasize the fullness of the lips. And of course the lipsticks were matte, so they were matte red. And I do have a Revlon lipstick in that red, but I wanted to try the MAC Ruby Woo, so I bought it for the purposes of the tutorial, and I ended up getting the mini, which I would not recommend. It is an excuse of a lipstick. When I say I wouldn't recommend it, I'm talking about the size, but the color definitely. And then gloss was not a thing, but if they wanted to add a little bit of gloss to their lips, they would use Vaseline. So I'm going to pop a little bit of this on, just a tiny bit. So I'm just going to fix my hair and I will be back. And so guys, that is the finished look. Please let me know in the comments below what era inspired you and why. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Ciao, ciao.